And not only has Spencer wandered in here, but strutting in here with an air of confidence about him, which is what I like, is the WBO Cruiserweight champion, Chris Billam-Smith. How does that sound, Chris, when you hear yourself getting billed like that now? You are a top man in the world of boxing. You're a Cruiserweight WBO champ.
Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds good. I'm not bored of hearing it yet, and long may it continue.
So, of course, your mindset, I would have thought, is bound to change when you go from challenger to champion, or does it?
Not really. No, I think I try and take every fight for what it is. You know, it's you look at the opponent and you just dissect the fight and who you got and the challenges you face, and that's what training camp's about, and just, you know, preparing for that really, and just prepare for the opponent. Nothing. That's all I can do. You know, that's how I've done it my whole career. So I think that's how I've got to continue.
I mean, Chris, we go back to May at the Vitality Stadium. You boxed an old gym mate, actually, old sparring partner in Lawrence Okolie. How difficult was that, preparing for a fight, you know, of that magnitude for his WBO world title, you know, in your home stadium, a place where you grew up, you knew each other inside out, you knew it was going to be a difficult fight. How difficult was it preparing for someone like Lawrence as opposed to someone like Masternak, who you're boxing, you know, next Sunday?
I think it was easier, to be honest, because, like I said, if you take away the world title and the stadium and all that, and just put the boxing ring there and who you're fighting, you know, as someone I've shared many rounds with, and I've got a coach who used to coach him, so he knows his strengths and weaknesses. Whereas this one, you know what you're getting with Masternak from watching him, but you don't know the ins and outs of him. And he's a more well-rounded fighter than anyone I've ever faced, I believe. Super tough. So, yeah, it's difficult. You've got to try and get different sparring in. It's hard to get someone who moves really well, but also carries a lot of power. So you have to really mix up the sparring. And
that's exactly what it is with Masternak, isn't it? He's a very tough guy. Hasn't been beaten, actually, since 2018. He's a voluntary defence. And I want to ask you this. Why pick such a difficult voluntary defence? Because we know what Masternak's going to bring to the fight. We know that he's tough, he's rough, he'll keep coming. You know, and I know you've got home advantage, but this is a difficult fight, a potential banana skin with what you've got planned for 2024.
Yeah, for sure. But world champion, there's no easy fights at this level. The only way you can make them easy is do all the work yourself, and that's what we've been doing in the gym. But yeah, we're expecting obviously a tough night's work. I don't think Masternak's ever been dropped in his career, and he's had 52 fights, and there's not many people who've had 52 fights and 52. Never been dropped. So yeah, it's a tough night's work for sure, but we're confident.
I mean, as you know, Chris, we're live on YouTube and Facebook, so cameras in the studio here. I love that. It's been picked up by a couple of people. Harry is one, Bob's another. Big boxing fans who describe themselves as. I love the shrug of the shoulder from Chris Billam-Smith. Yeah, I'm a champion. I mean, but it's not something you dismiss. You're not indifferent to the fact that you've progressed from where you were to where you are now. But there's an appreciation of it, nothing more than that from yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, you know, very close to the fight now. So I think it's sort of that it's irrelevant of having the belt really, because you've got to defend it. So I've got to really focus on the next fight and just and work towards that.
How good is it having home advantage? I mean, the big arena that you've boxed in, we've seen you there a number of times before. Isaac Chamberlain was one that stands out for me back in, when was that, 2022? Fight of the year contender, but unbelievable. How important is it to have that home advantage? Because the Bournemouth fans really will get behind you, and you may need them actually in this contest, because, you know, it is going to be tough at times.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I got into the sport because of atmosphere. I went and watched my mate. We were all chanting his name, and I thought I want a bit of that. So for me to then go on and have a unbelievable fan base and, you know, create the noise that they do and live in that atmosphere is just, I'm so appreciative of it, and it gets me buzzing, it gives me goosebumps. I can't wait to get back in the BIC as well, because as defending champion, you know, the tickets sold out 4 weeks early, so it's going to be loud in there, and it's a proper bear pit, and it's like a wall of fans. So yeah, I can't wait.
And the fight's happening on a Sunday because Bournemouth are playing away on the Saturday, is that right? So you put the fight on Sunday to get all the fans there?
Yeah, I think it was best for everyone for it to be on a Sunday, because you know, we're away at United on the Saturday, so it's you can't. They the fans that gave me that night back in May that will be travelling up to United. I can't let them down. They've got to be there and watch me defend it.
Have a good Bournemouth double, Simon, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think he's a better fighter than the one that lost to Tony Bellew?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Even though it's a long time ago, I think that was quite a big fight. He would have learnt a lot from that fight. But he's so well rounded.
He went the distance with Tony, didn't he? And ultimately, Tony's quite a heavy hitter, isn't he?
It was a tough fight, by the way, as well. I remember being at that fight. And Masternak, he brought it the whole time. And Tony had to ask himself, he had to dig deep at times there as well. So that's what I said. When you look at the record of him, I think he's only ever lost since Tony was to another former champion in Dorticus, who's a great fighter, a really good fighter, who's mandatory now for Golamarian's title. It's a WBA title, isn't it? So that's the sort of company he's mixing in. I mean, and this guy is like I say, when I looked at it, I was like, okay, like you know, there's easier options out there, and this one stylistically, you'll bring it, he'll bring it. It's guaranteed war, isn't it?
Yeah. I think my team and my family prefer it not to be a war, but yeah, no.
But you can't help yourself. That's the way you fight.
It's always exciting. But yeah, no, it's. I think he's a really good fight. Talking about the Tony Bellew fight, he had he went 12 rounds with Tony, and I think a couple of the judges had it 115, 113, and the last round Masternak was winning the first minute, and Tony pulled out a brilliant last 2 minutes and really hurt him and won the round, which might have swung the fight. Otherwise, it could have been a draw. So, and obviously we know how good a fighter Tony is.
And then Tony goes on a year later and wins the WBC belt, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, he's been there and done it. He hasn't actually boxed for a world title yet, Masternak. So I know what that feeling's like as a challenger for the first time.
When you look across the landscape, Chris, you're now a world champion, and it is a different feel and a different look, irrespective of, because a lot of people will change around you. Maybe you won't change, but there's a lot of noise and a lot of attention is being made of Jai Opetaia, and all the heat in the division seems to be focused on him. Is that something you want to address in terms of your profile to get yourself in a position? Because the bigger the name you are, your achievements will get you bigger purses and bigger outcomes. What do you make of that sort of observation?
Yeah, I think he obviously beat Breedis, then
put Jordan Thompson.
Done well against Jordan Thompson, but Jordan's never boxed near that level.
It's
really.
about levels, wasn't it? Yeah.
I even said that to Jordan on the night. I went and saw him after, but
because obviously he's on this card now on December the 23rd, isn't he?
Yes,
which creates its own buzz, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And once again, I think I'd like to see a Brit win it, but I don't think many people give Chisora a chance in that fight. Mainly because he's never boxed anywhere near that level, but he may surprise us all. But yeah, that's a fight I definitely want down the line. I wanted it for the May show, but there was difficulties with management. That was sort of what we were working towards from the Isaac Chamberlain fight.
Spence, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's all about unifications for me. When you get to that level anyway, and you want to fight the best, you want to push yourself, test yourself. But there's other big names out there as well. Obviously, Richard Riakporhe is a big name that we've got. Lawrence Okoli still there. He's waiting for his rematch. So I mean, there's big names in British shores as well for you. But I think that unifications, Jai Opetaia, who's many consider as the best in the division, he's probably there, the ones that people are talking about. That's where you want to be, right?
Yeah, for sure. If I that could all change next week when I go and put on a performance.
Sure.
So everyone's opinion might change, but that's the beauty of boxing. And until we get in the ring with each other, we won't know.
Are you minded to give Riakporhe a shot before he gets a belt, or after he's got one?
I mean, ideally, I would have liked him to. Obviously, I think both of us would have liked him to have had a belt, but that looks unlikely. So it may happen before. We'll see. But it's a shame because I feel like there was an opportunity there to do a massive unification. But yeah, we'll see.
My understanding was Golamarian, who's the WBA champion, was where Richard was looking for. That's what he was targeting. But Golamarian's now gone somewhere else. He's fighting possibly Ramirez or someone like that, which leaves Richard in this position. Lawrence Okoli's still there, waiting for that rematch. But Richard may then get mandated as your mandatory.
Yeah, I think he's
he's number 2, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's
so you don't need to worry about all that, Chris.
No.
You've got this guy Masternak in front of you, and that's it. And the fight's live on talkSPORT. What do you think you're going to see from him? What might you have to be fearful of in the opening rounds? Because this guy can bang, presumably, with 31 KOs.
Yeah, for sure. He's really, really good fighter. He's like I said, there's not any glaring weaknesses there. I think he just puts his shots together well. He's got good feet. He punch power, but it's not like a forced punch power. He doesn't show his attacks. He's got a really good right hand, which he just loops straight over the top. So yeah, there's a huge amount of danger there. I've got to be on it, and if I'm anything but that, then it'll be a really, really, really hard night.
Well, Chris is set to make the first defence against Mateuz Masternak. It's next weekend. It's Sunday, not Saturday, remember, and it's live on talkSPORT.